Nerds for Christ, Jacob speaking here. So today I'm going to be doing a video, and I've been thinking about this for a while, on 25 ways smaller churches or just churches in general can save money. No particular order, just kind of came up with these as I was brainstorming, and I've thought about some of these for a while, and we've actually implemented some of these in my own church. So here we go. Number one, find the right printer for your needs. A lot of places will have multiple small unit printers. If you know that your church prints off like every Sunday prints off flyers for the sermon, or they print off flyers to hand out to people, whatever their outreach ministry is, you know, doing small like HP printers or stuff, they get like 300, maybe 150 prints per cartridge, and that's anywhere from $15 to $35. Depending on where you shop. Think about investing in a large like industrial printer, something that is going to get thousands and thousands of prints before it needs refilled. And yeah, it costs more, but it's in the long run, we're talking like those things usually run like less than 1 cent or 1 cent per print, comparative to like 5 cents per print on like a smaller printer. So I know it's kind of a silly thing and most people don't think about it, but churches print a lot of stuff. I know they do. A part of our board, we print a lot of papers, we print a lot of sheets. I can't think of a time I go in there and do some work that I'm not printing something. So invest in a good printer. Like, it's a lot of prints, and research the printer you're going to be buying. Don't just jump into it. Check almost all printers at stores and stuff. They will say, like, especially online, how many prints you get out of it. So it's definitely worth looking into. And if you are a church right now and you're running everyone in their own office and stuff and has their own printer, you're probably flushing money away. Not a whole lot, but a decent enough. So moving on, because I kind of stayed on that one a little long. 3, copy books or pamphlets and stuff. If you're doing a large study, don't just go out and buy 1,000,000 copies of that book. The point is you could save a lot of money by buying 2 or 3 copies for the leaders or the teachers of said Sunday school class or whatever class study. Things like this, you're going to be able to save a few bucks, not a whole lot, but it's worth it to look into, do we really need 15 copies of the same book or 100? Instead, let's cut it down to 2 or 3. 4, search for it and catalog it before you purchase. A while back, a few months ago, I was looking for a cord for the computer at our church, and I searched and could not find it, so I ended up purchasing one, and turns out we had one, someone knew where it was, and I didn't. Kind of my bad, I didn't ask, but at the same time, it wasn't well known that we had one, and it wasn't cataloged, and it wasn't where it should have been. So it's one of those things where keeping things where they should be and cataloging and searching for something before you go and make a worthless purchase. On some things, it's nice to have a second of whatever you're purchasing, but in this case, it was worthless. It was just we didn't need a second one. 5, before making big purchases, like let's say you're putting in a new bench or a basketball hoop or something recreational, or maybe you're fixing roofing on your church or something. So these big purchases, before paying for it out of the church's money, ask for donations. Sometimes your people, your congregation, your board, they're willing, when they see a need that's important and it touches their hearts, they will, if they can, put forth and help out with that. And even if it doesn't fully cover it, it's still something, and it will help save money in the long run. Number 6, fundraising outside your church. A lot of churches do a lot of fundraisers. Don't just keep it in house. Don't do the Christian huddle. We're meant to go out and minister to others, talk to others, explain and show and live what Christ and God is about. So just doing in-house fundraisers is kind of a mute point. Not only are you just retaxing basically your tithers, you're stressing their budgets and your congregation's patience. So when you do fundraisers and stuff, make sure it's open to the public. Make sure you let people know. Hey, invite people. You don't have to really, if you're part of the congregation, you don't have to put more forth than you already do. But maybe instead of putting forth money, put forth inviting someone, bringing people. That's something that can help a lot. And not only can it help financially, but that can help bring people in who maybe are strangers to Christianity, or maybe who are looking for a church and are interested in joining. Number 7, take all donations, regardless of what they are. You never know when you're going to need it. And we actually had someone a while back who had a very negative attitude in our church, and they had said at one point, our church will never be a food pantry church. Now, first of all, that's just straight up telling God, well, God, I won't let you work this way in my life. So I'm not going to cover that. There's a lot of things I could go and go over on that statement. But the thing of it is you never know when God's going to work a miracle in your church's operation or with a single individual. For all you know, one day a big old food truck could pull up to your church and they're like, we don't know who, but anonymously someone donated thousands of cans of soup and all sorts of supplies, and we're going to start unloading it. Where do you want us to put it? At that point in time, well, guess what? Your church is now a food pantry church. So saying stuff, just egging on the fact that God might show you how he can work miracles, and it might put you to work in what you don't think will happen. But that's besides the point. Is the main point of that is if you're offered something, take it. You may have no need for it. Your church may have no need for it, but hold on to it until someone does have a need for it. My advice, if it's given to you, as long as it's not gross or vermin filled or anything like that, like bed bugs or roaches or rats, take it. Number 8, a lot of churches do music, and if you use mics, they usually need batteries unless they're corded. A lot of equipment like wireless keyboards or remotes, get rechargeable. Save yourself money, save yourself a headache, get rechargeable. Number 9, carpool. If multiple people are going to the same event, like maybe like a pastor meeting or a board meeting or any kind of like missionary work or something like that, carpool. If there's multiple people going to the same location, meet at the church, leave your cars, and take one. Especially if the church is reimbursing for gas, definitely carpool. Number 10, compare prices online and offline. I don't know how many people, it astounds me, who just go with the first price they see. Check multiple sites, check multiple buyers, check, especially if you're making a big expensive purchase, check your local stores too. There are plenty of times I love Amazon. I use Amazon to purchase so much, but you know what? There are times I do find it cheaper at Walmart or Lowe's or Home Depot, whatever you're looking for. Look online, look in store, and compare. Don't just be, and even if you, let's say, make the purchase one time and it's more expensive, and you see it later on, remember that it's cheaper somewhere else. Don't just keep buying where you've gotten it from. Don't be stubborn like that. You're just wasting money. When it comes to jobs needing done, like roofing, piping, plumbing, anything like that, tree removal, get a second quote. Do not just go with the first person who gives you what sounds like a good price. That's just ignorant. I don't know why you wouldn't get a second quote. Get that second quote. Get third quote, fourth quote. I don't care. Find out who's doing the best deal. Um, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just smart. Spend wisely. Don't just throw money at it because you've got it. Save the money because you never know when you won't have that money. Um, so that's just an easy one. Um, 12. Now this one is kind of give or take. You don't necessarily have to follow this one depending on what you're doing. But my advice is don't waste money on advertising, like big billboards or, commercials on TV. Now, I don't think a lot of smaller churches or stuff are doing this. Probably mostly the mega churches, and they probably, they're probably doing a lot of this stuff to begin with anyway, so that's probably one of the reasons they're staying in mega church. But, um, you know, use Facebook, use YouTube, use Twitter, use Instagram, etc. There's so many social networks and outlets and stuff online that are free and you don't need to pay. Now they do have advertising, and I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Facebook advertising. I think it's pretty cheap and it works pretty well. We've used it a few times, but you can still use these. Share your videos, share your message. Give your church an online presence, and it's free advertising. So, why not do it? And why spend money on advertising if you can get free advertising? When you buy something big, like I talked about, a big industrial printer or, getting a new church van or something, always, always get the warranty. On my personal purchases, I'm not always gonna get the warranty. That's because it comes down to budgeting. But if you have the money available, and you're a business or operating, a church, obviously, because we're talking about saving money for churches, get the warranty because you never. It could be a good product. It could be a good product name, but you never know when, especially when you're dealing with electronics or things like that. You never know when you're going to get that lemon. It just wasn't designed in the factory or whatever. Someone messed up, or maybe in shipping or whatever the item is. It could just arrive broken, and if you don't have that warranty, you're out of luck. So, if it's big, get the warranty and research if the warranty is worth it. Know what the warranty covers as well. Otherwise, you might be paying for a warranty that's not worth it. But I definitely suggest looking into a warranty, especially if you're paying upwards into the thousands for an item. And number 14, I don't know if I've been even saying the numbers. Oh well. Anyway, don't be afraid to recycle lessons, supplies, materials, books, Sunday school books. Obviously, you don't want to reuse the same lesson a week later, but sometimes God puts it upon your heart to, hey, it's been 3 or 4 years. You've got different kids. It's like I'm a youth leader. I deal with the teens, but let's say, the juniors teacher or like this adult Sunday class, Sunday school class. You get different people at different times. Sometimes people don't even remember, but sometimes lessons need reiterated. So don't be afraid to keep using the same material. And you don't always have to go out and keep buying new materials. And sometimes when you go over an old material, you pick up something you didn't pick up before. So it's also a good learning experience. 15, and this one kind of goes along with investing in your congregation, but I kind of talked about this earlier, and this one's kind of, you're like, well, how can spending money basically save you money? And I'll kind of explain that. But, along with the lines of investing in your congregation and your board, investing into your church, not just financially, but investing as in caring. Um, this one is basically educate, help, and prosper your congregation so they can grow. Um, help maybe one of the younger congregation members pay off college. Um, help someone go to tech school. Help someone. Let's say you have a treasurer. Let's say you have a soundboard person. Let's say you have your music worship team. You know, if they need classes, pay for their classes, improve their capabilities if there's room for improving. These kind of investments, when you give and you help people learn skills and better themselves, they can pay back in a multitude of ways. Not just speaking in terms of cash. So this can pay off. You never know. Like, let's say you help someone pay off their schooling and they're a baker, and guess what? They feel led to, because the church helped them out and they feel led by God to do so. They're going to bake fundraising for almost every fundraiser the church does. They're going to throw in even the flour and everything that's needed. And that's basically, you've invested in people and you believe in those people. Not to say putting faith in them, but you believe in them, that you're showing them that they have value, and that when you do that, people often reciprocate a valuable way sometimes. 16, get a bookkeeper. I don't I could say this to every church: get a bookkeeper. If you do not have a bookkeeper, get a bookkeeper. Yes, they can be expensive, and no, your treasurer does not count. A treasurer should not be the bookkeeper. It's checks and balances when it comes to that. Make sure, for one, you're overloading your treasurer if they are also the bookkeeper. You're also putting temptation their way. That's not fair to them. It's not fair to the congregation. It's not fair to the board. It's not fair of anyone in the whole entire situation of a church that's doing that. So get a bookkeeper, and also they're going to find things, they're going to categorize things, and you're going to see where you're losing money, where you're gaining money, what to expect when you do your yearly budget, or however your church does their budget. It's a smart idea. Like, get a bookkeeper, make sure no one's funneling funds, make sure no one's accidentally spending more than they need to. It's just a smart idea. It's like locking your car when you go into the store, or when you come home for the day. You lock your car because you don't want someone to break into it. So, and I'm not just implying that, get a bookkeeper to prevent stealing or of funds or stuff, but I'm saying get a bookkeeper because it's just common sense. That's what they do. They keep track of the money. You need someone to keep track of the money who isn't the treasurer. 17, if you can and it's worth it, buy in bulk. And if you have the funds to do so, like one of the examples we've come across is, like paper, usually cleaning supplies and stuff for churches or businesses. If you buy in bulk, you get some money off. Same thing with our checks. If we buy thousands of checks, we get like almost 50 cents off per check. So, these are just some examples. 19, go through, especially your yearly budget, or if you, however you set up your budget, how often. I don't know if you have, some churches might do monthly reevaluations, or just twice a year or whatever, but go through and really evaluate your necessities, your costs, your uses, things like, does your church really need cable? Are you really utilizing it? Do you really need, the highest speed of internet? Do you really need that subscription of some sort of magazine or whatever that you give everyone, or give a few people in the church? These are some things, like reevaluate some of the spending, go back to it, and realize, just because you get rid of it now doesn't mean you can't get something back later on in the future. So, don't be stubborn. reevaluate, and cut costs. 20, be transparent. I'm telling you this from personal experience and from talking to people and from just things I've seen it multiple times. Is if you are not transparent with the funds and how things are spent, people will get suspicious, and they have every right to be. And I'm sorry, it's just one of those things where if you are not transparent, people will not tithe. People will. Now, I'm not saying this is right, this is wrong on them. They shouldn't start rumors, they shouldn't start gossip, you know. But without transparency, doubt will grow. Like a weed, it will grow. It doesn't need watered or anything. Doubt will grow, and unless you're transparent, you should never hear someone at a board meeting say or do something like, "Oh, I'll get back to you on what that was spent," or, "Oh, we don't have the receipt." Now, losing one receipt or something is reasonable. You get a witness, show proof of what you purchased. These are the kind of things. It's there's some checks and balances you can cover yourself. People do make mistakes, but it's one of those things where it comes to a certain point where it becomes obvious to a lot of people when things aren't transparent, and that's when you start losing the trust in your congregation and your board, and people will stop tithing. And the thing is, a lot of people, and I've known people who, they don't necessarily stop tithing, they stop tithing to that church, they tithe somewhere else. And I can't say that that's wrong, especially if that money's not being spent correctly. And I know that could be a huge argument. I'm sure people might say something in the comment section about that, but feel free to argue with me on that. 21, this one's a simple one, I don't need to talk about it long. Energy efficient light bulbs, get them. No reason not to have them. Anything that's energy efficient, get it. Spend less electricity, spend less money. So it's simple math. 22, keep up on all your maintenance, cars, properties. If you have buses, if you're a mega church and you ridiculously have a jet or plane or something along those lines, keep up on it. Don't let things rust, don't let things wear and tear. It costs more money in the long run to replace or fix something from the bottom up compared to putting appropriate patching or replacing when needed. I can't think of a really good analogy for that right at the moment, but maintenance your stuff. There's a reason a lot of churches have buildings and grounds. Get one, or get someone who can take care of things, or look at things, or be like, hey, that tire's flat, we should probably fix that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize things are wrong. So be up on that, and just don't let things continue to fester and get worse. It's going to cost you a lot more in the long run. Not all states, but a lot of states, pay a lot of money for recyclables. Like, I live in New York, it's 5 cents a can. That's pretty good. We ask people, to recycle if they want to bring in their empty pop bottles and cans and stuff. That's 5 cents. We put that towards our van, and also the van's gas when we run it to pick people up for church. So that's kind of just an example, but if you have recycling, even if it's not a state that gives you 5 cents, and you just do based on the weight, like, I used to live in Ohio, so it's just whatever the aluminum's going for at the time and the weight of your multiple bags or whatever. But this is just a small example of recycle. It can save you money. Also, if you have on the church's property or other properties, you have like broken down stuff, like we have an old basketball hoop we keep meaning to recycle. It's not going to be a lot, but whether it's made out of steel or whatever, it's worth something if you scrap it. So just kind of be aware of recycling opportunities, and also when you recycle or get rid of certain things, especially off of properties, they can be eyesores. So you're just kind of sprucing things up a little bit. 24, remind people that tithing isn't just giving cash. Well, obviously credit or check either, but you know, be willing to um, let people know that they can also tithe with their talents and time. And this kind of goes back into the example I gave about, the paying off and investing into your congregation or people um, that your congregation knows, along those lines, to where, talking about like you help pay off, a baker's education, and he wants to bake for you now, or she. So I mean, same thing with like an electrician. I mean, obviously they don't have to um, be a direct kind of influence like that, like I've been giving examples of. But think outside the box. Be able to remind people that, hey, if you don't have money, we don't just demand money. It's not communism or anything. Um, it's about love and compassion, and doing things for God and glorifying God. So church shouldn't be about just money grubbing. So allow people to offer tithe to God in other ways than just money. I've heard stories, horror stories about churches locking doors and being like, no one can leave until we get that money that God wants us to have, or we need that new jet or something. These are these are ridiculous examples and stories. We shouldn't, church should never do anything like that. Um, but if someone, and also don't turn down someone's tithing that isn't um, cash. If someone's a painter and they go, hey, I want to do a painting for the church, what would the church be interested in? Don't say, oh, don't worry about it, don't do it. you know God's talking to this person. He's working through them. They're wanting to take something and do it out of they're taking time out of their day, and they're taking their talent and they're using it for God and God's glory. So also don't unencourage someone wanting to tithe in different ways. um and I think I skipped someone. I gotta look at my list because I feel like I missed something. Be open to investing. Don't just let the plate money sit. um you know After you get a haul of your plate money, and you just put it in the bank, you pay the bills, and it just sits there. um it's the equivalent um of the servant who just kept it, hid the money, and waited to give it back. um One, it shows no faith in God, and that He's going to take care of things. You're taking it into your own hands, and not to say that you shouldn't in some aspects. God gives us wisdom and knowledge for a reason. um, but invest the money in some manner. Whether it's MMLs, whether it's stocks, whether it's American funds. There are always ways to invest, and you should definitely look into them. Whether it's buying gold. I don't think I've ever seen gold go down, so I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but I know buying precious metals is something people do to invest. So whatever it is, figure it out and invest. Don't just let the money that the church gets stagnate. um, God gives us the money, and He expects us to use it appropriately, and also I think He expects us to multiply it by our faith and by our actions. So just don't be stupid with it. Obviously, I wouldn't suggest stocks though, but I was just giving some examples. But these are just, I mean, I think there are probably other things I'm missing, but I mean, I think 25 is a pretty good list. Um, but these are some things that not just churches, I think just businesses in general could benefit from. Those are the 25 things I think would help a church, or um, maybe a small business, save some money. um, and not that the church is only about money, but you have to pay the bills, you got to keep the electric on, you got to keep the water flowing. It's just an unfortunate truth in today's society, unless you're mega millionaire rich and you just have everything paid off. But gotta keep the lights on somehow. That's what I have in the comment section. If you've got other ideas or you want to argue or yell at me or whatever, feel free to do so. Keep it friendly. I will knock off comments that I think are mean or, well, I mean, not mean. That means fine. I mean, I guess it's not fine, but using profanity and things like that. For the most part, keep it family friendly if you guys wouldn't mind doing so. And if you think you have an idea of something that's maybe not on the list, or something that you don't think is very good or whatever, just comment on it, and I'd love to see what you guys think. And that's it. Stay safe and God bless.